guilty cannot be allowed to face justice in opposition to Murkoff's profit and influence. Murkoff is the power that makes truth possible.
Wear that smile with pride, and let's make some money. Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for disappearance, death, or dismemberment.
The United Nations Human Rights Council is dedicated to preserving the rights and dignity of mankind across the globe. But considering there's nothing going on in the world right now that merits our attention, we're instead going to put two of the most notorious corporations from video games on trial to see who is the most evil. The Murkoff Corporation from Outlast, and Fazbear Entertainment from Five Nights at Freddy's. Representing the Murkoff Corporation is Nick, Carlson Press.
Let's make this quick. I tee off at 11 with all of your mothers.
Representing Fazbear Entertainment is Sandwichly.
That's me, Sandwich at Law, happy to represent a time-tested, family-friendly company like Fazbear's.
Hey, didn't you attempt to prosecute like half the company in prior cases?
Didn't you drink a cocktail whose primary ingredient was mouthwash?
Gonna plead the fifth on this one.
Alright, enough banter. Sandwichly, your opening statement.
Of course, Mr. UN Suit. The Murkoff Corporation, which started out as a pharmaceutical company, over time became a nightmare factory, growing fat off the sins of this country. As this trial will prove, Murkoff's fingerprints are smeared all over the window pane of history. From conspiring with the CIA to kidnap, torture, and murder innocent civilians, to brainwashing unwitting subjects into manipulating scores of innocent others, to experimenting on and abusing vulnerable mental patients for the pursuit of money. Murkoff is an intestinal parasite that eats, craps, and then eats its own crap. But we stand here today, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, on the verge of a cure, and that cure is justice.
Very concerning. Nick, your opening statement.
Thank you. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, where fantasy and fun come to life. Or should we say, where murderers and frauds condemn to death. For this family-friendly image is merely a facade masking the trash pit underneath. A septic tank swollen with corruption, obfuscation, negligence, greed, and a red tide of children's blood. At Fazbear Entertainment, you will find a company that puts out revolutionary technology, yet uses it for cheap thrills and meaningless death. At Fazbear Entertainment, you will find a company that believes family-friendly fun ought to come with a phone book's worth of legal disclaimers. And at Fazbear Entertainment, you will find a company that has willingly protected serial killers and career criminals and conspired to perpetuate their campaigns at the expense of innocent lives. They must be stopped. For our sake.
How troubling. Mr. Sandwichly, you have the floor.
Mr. UN Suit, I'd like to call up my first witness. So tell me, what kind of name is Kotzwurst?
It means vomit sausage.
That's disgusting. How dare you impugn my court with your vile language?
What? I thought it was funny.
You think the German language is funny? So befitting of a witness of the Murkoff Corporation, how do you sleep at night?
Objection, this is about Murkoff's character, not Mr. Wurst's.
Sustained. Mr. Sandwichly, kindly keep your germophobia outside of this courtroom.
That's not even what... Oh, forget it. Anyway, Mr. Wurst, what is the Murkoff Corporation's motto?
Your world, our business.
Quite a presumptuous statement, asserting themselves as stakeholders in the common man's business, wouldn't you agree?
I guess.
And sticking their nose in others' business has been their MO for a very long time. All the way back to 1949, when Murkoff first teased a partnership with the CIA, offering to provide heroin for their covert ops, correct?
Yes.
And especially when Murkoff blackmailed the CIA into partnering with them a few years later.
Sure, I guess.
And all that ignoring Murkoff's collaboration with a known Nazi scientist, Rudolf Wernicke.
Objection, Dr. Wernicke was an Operation Paperclip asset. He never conducted Nazi Party business on US soil.
But his work certainly carried over. Alan Turing and Adolf Hitler were aware of his projects as far back as 1938, not to mention internal memos referring to the man as a senile Nazi.
Those were clearly jokes.
So, jokes about Nazis being Nazis?
Godwin's Law.
Overruled. No memes, Mr. Press.
What do you mean, no memes? You fascist?
Order. I will have order.
Thank you, Mr. UN Suit. Modeling their research around BS Nazi mysticism aside, we haven't even gotten to Murkoff's actual crimes throughout the mid-20th century. Most sweeping of all, their kidnapping and abuse of innocent Americans. Their victims, mainly consisting of the downtrodden and oppressed, were drugged with LSD, and they were subjected to cruel, invasive medical experiments and sent through elaborate obstacle courses designed to inflict suffering, where they were assaulted, murdered, and even forced to carry out assault and murder. The ones who didn't comply were turned into chum. The ones who did? Well, let me borrow from my faux biblical phrasebook. Spider Eye Lamb.
Chocolate!
This is how Murkoff sees their fellow man, ladies and gentlemen. Toys, props, target practice. I fail to see how such flagrant dehumanization can be viewed as anything less than uniquely evil.
I beg to differ.
Oh, what do you mean, Mr. Worst?
You called Murkoff uniquely evil, but I don't think what they were doing was any worse than what was already being done back then. The concentration camps, Unit 731...
Both of which Murkoff profited from.
Not to mention the CIA's overthrowing of democratically elected governments, nor the peddling of crack cocaine to American citizens.
All of which Murkoff was at least partially involved in.
The damage done at the Signala facility is incomparable to the damage done on a wilder scale by its partners. Murkoff is but an equal opportunity offender. You want the real criminals? Look upward at your government. At least Murkoff never swore an oath to protect our rights.
So what you're saying is, Murkoff isn't as evil as they could have been because they weren't voted in to protect our rights? I think that's enough.
Care to introduce yourself to the court, Mr.
Hey, I'm Rambly the Raccoon, bitch. What's up?
Mr. King. And it says here you are the undisputed leader of the FNAF community, correct?
Yep, ever since MatPat retired.
Well, I wouldn't be so smart about it, because anything that happens in this courtroom today, I am holding you personally responsible for.
I'm also the leader of the Poppy Playtime and Indigo Park communities, as well as being the finder of Frankie.
I will admit, Fazbear Entertainment started out wholesomely enough. All its co-founders, William Afton and Henry Emily, wanted was to bring fantasy and fun to kids and grown-ups alike. But of course, business got in the way of the dream. That business being cold-blooded, first-degree murder. Do you deny that Afton killed those kids?
Listen, I knew William Afton personally, and he was the best guy around. He probably did kill those children, though. Yeah.
And you agree with the legal stipulations?
Yeah, sure.
And let me clarify that this all started over Afton's anger and resentment over Emily's robotic designs that killed his own son.
Nick, are you really going to reference MatPat's ultimate FNAF timeline?
But of course.
The timeline that is largely based on speculation and guesswork?
Well, if anyone else has a better explanation as to what happened.
Mr. UN Suit, I'd like to strike game theory's ultimate timeline as admissible evidence.
Absolutely not. It's the closest thing to crucial we have in this case.
I have to agree with Mr. Press. MatPat's timeline is a leading authority on what really happened, in a fandom where facts are deliberately rare to come by. I will let him continue.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, a human skull can withstand up to 520 pounds of force before crushing. I ask, why would Emily feel the need to design an articulating robot jaw with enough force to crush a human skull?
Well, first off, because the robots having super jaws was freaking awesome. You gotta understand, Henry Emily was a visionary dabbling in revolutionary animatronic technology. Designing a robot with such a powerful command of force is a side effect of innovation. He was a genius.
It's not a matter of innovation, but common sense. Why have such lethal forces in the presence of children at all?
As I said before, because it's freaking awesome. But more importantly though, why were the patrons of Fredbear's Family Diner not using the animatronics for their intended purpose?
They were minors at the time, Mr. King, and also not the subject of this trial. Answer the question.
Roller coasters injure kids with their mechanics all the time, yet nobody's going off about common sense over innovation there.
But the threat of casualty with a roller coaster is implicit in its design, not with a family-friendly animatronic.
Are you implying that Henry wanted those kids dead?
Absolutely not. I'm stating that Emily's criminal negligence was just one brick in a slaughterhouse that has taken countless lives. Oh, let's just have skull-crushing mechanics at play in the presence of children. What could possibly go wrong? I attribute to stupidity what I cannot to malice. But with Emily, the stupidity crosses a line. Lives were ripped away due to his need for innovation. His disregard for common sense, safety, the fragility of human flesh. And we haven't even gotten to Afton. Afton, a man who murdered a young girl because he was jealous. A man who not only used but designed Fazbear Entertainment assets to lure and kill at least several others. A man who perverted spiritual energy for his own sick desires to rebuild a family that he broke and attain eternal life. He was cunning, manipulative, and he operated in full control of his actions. Afton thought himself as God. I think a more apt comparison lies down south.
Listen, despite murdering all those children who may or may not have deserved it, ultimately Afton was self-motivated. He took those actions of his own volition, not on behalf of or in association with Fazbear Entertainment.
Mr. Afton is Fazbear Entertainment.
For all Afton's faults, the worst you can say regarding Fazbear Entertainment is that making the robots awesome was criminally negligent, and you pinned that on Henry. It was his robots that defined the company, not Afton's.
Your time is up, Mr. Press.
We'll see about that. Damn court-mandated recesses. Just when I had them wriggling in the crushing grip of reason. Oh, shit. Hey, if for some reason this whole lawyer thing doesn't work out for me, I highly recommend checking out my 2 books, Hell's Gulf and The God Tide. God. Spooky, wacky, funny, and obscene. They're the purest essence of distilled North Florida, bottled up with the requisite amount of drama and heart. You'll find monsters, madness, and maritime hijinks in this shared universe that must be read to be believed. And you can check them out in the description below. That's my cue.
So, Happy Heart, how are you feeling today?
Alright, I guess.
Just all right? And your name is Happy Heart? Why don't they just call you All Right Heart?
I can't be happy all the time, otherwise how would I know what happiness is?
Don't get philosophical with me.
I don't get semantic with me.
Do you see the blatant disrespect Murkoff sends our way? It's like they want to be locked up.
Mr. Sandwich Leaf, for the love of all that is.
So let's talk about what Murkoff was doing post-Project Lathe. Mr. Hart, do the numbers 1616 mean anything to you?
Reagent 1616, aka Sullivan Noth.
And I assume you're aware of his legacy after he left Sinyala?
Objection. Murkoff is not culpable for whatever Sullivan Noth and his followers did on Templegate grounds.
Are you forgetting, Mr. Press, that Murkoff compelled Noth and his followers to commit acts of terror, murder, and conspiracy via microwave signals that amplified their insanity?
For all Murkoff knew, those microwaves could have made the townsfolk believe they were cantaloupes. Unless you can prove a direct order from Murkoff to Noth to carry out these things, then we can write off Templegate entirely.
Mr. Hart, do the words spider, eye, lamb hold any significance to you?
Those are the trigger words used to activate reagents.
And you are aware that those exact words appear in Sullivan Noth's gospel?
A holdover from his time in Sinyala.
Except for the fact that Sullivan Noth heard the word of God through radio static, or so he believed. Was that not Murkoff feeding him ideas? Ideas that would lead to the authorship of the Gospel of Noth?
So Murkoff has fanfiction writers on their payroll. Ooh, big whoop.
Therefore, anything Noth carried out that was already written in the Gospel can be pinned on Murkoff. Infanticide, the organized carnal assaults on women, many of whom were underage, and the kidnap and torture of Lynn Langerman, whom they believe to be the mother of the Antichrist.
Well, the Gospel of Noth is a work of highly prophetic and metaphorical prose, not an instruction book. Like any religious text, its contents are, by their nature, highly interpretive. Even though the words were there was no telling how Noth would have interpreted them.
For example, the Antichrist could have been a giant cantaloupe.
Shut up, Nick.
I have to agree with Mr. Hart. While the microwave towers are a gross violation of human rights, and the intent for depravity was there, anything the Temple Gate denizens did themselves stemmed from their own religious fervor. Their crimes are inadmissible in this trial.
Fine, let's talk about something Murkoff definitely was involved in. The assassination of Anna Lee, a 15-year-old girl who escaped Temple Gate and threatened to expose it to the outside world. Murkoff might not be responsible for child killings at Temple Gate, but Anna Lee didn't have to wait for Noth's hand. Anything to say about that child killing, Nick?
You're gay.
And while we're on the topic of Murkoff involvement, let's touch on Mount Massive Asylum.
Oh boy.
Buying it out and repurposing it as a front for the aforementioned senile Nazi science experiments. Subjecting not only ailing mental patients to dangerous therapies without their consent, in many cases exasperating their illnesses and physical conditions, but their own employees? Even purchasing a 23-year-old man involved in no way, shape, or form with Murkoff? All for what? Nanobots?
Have you considered that nanobots are really, really cool?
I'll tell you what isn't cool. Email spam in the form of ants.
You and I have very different definitions of the word cool.
Murkoff has left a trail, ladies and gentlemen. Whoever gets in their way, they rip to shreds and leave them behind. Never have I seen a company engaged in such selfish, inconsiderate disregard for human dignity.
You ever heard of Nestle?
I've heard of them, and once I've had my say, maybe Nestle and Murkoff can share a cell.
Your time is up, Mr. Sandwichley.
I gotta say, for a person named 1,000 Dumplings, you don't look much like a dumpling. Nor are there 1,000 of you. Anyway, sure, Afton and Emily's crimes are largely contained to the past, but the real juicy meat comes from the present. Mainly Fazbear Entertainment products. Miss Dumplings, what can you tell me about sea bonnies?
They're brine shrimp, genetically altered to look like Bonnie.
Are they, though? Last time I checked, brine shrimp don't assimilate with living organisms' DNA.
Nick, I'd like to point out that the alleged victim in that case used the sea bonnies in violation of their intended purpose. You're not supposed to house them with other pets, nor drink them.
Again, I ask, why is a bioweapon like that within 100 miles of children in the first place?
Would you drink brine shrimp, Nick? Like for any reason?
I mean, a triple dog dare is not out of the question.
Mr. UN Suit, can we set a motion to strike any instance where alleged victims used Fazbear Entertainment products in violation of their intended purpose?
Approved.
What?
I value this court's time, Mr. Press.
You... Ugh, no matter. I've got more. Miss Dumplings, do you know what this is?
Subpar artwork?
Actually, this is an official depiction of Angel, no last name given, who committed the terrible crime of eating the gumdrop nose of the birthday gummy intended for the birthday girl.
Yes, and the staff of that restaurant explicitly warned that only the birthday girl was allowed to eat the nose.
So you agree that was their intent?
Well, yeah.
They intended to enforce a moral code with this product, one that would have disastrous consequences for the offender?
Yeah.
Miss Dumplings, I once took something that wasn't mine. It was actually yesterday I stole my sister's buffalo wings off her plate. And you know what happened to me? I got yelled at. I did not get turned into a sentient food product and stuffed into the ceiling of the restaurant so the next batch of kids could eat me alive.
Well, maybe you should have.
How could you not look at that incident and deem it pure, unrefined sadism? What gives Fazbear Entertainment the right to promote VeggieTales morality by forcing the offenders to get devoured by children?
Hey, when do I get to talk about my backrooms OCs?
At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, the birthday gummy is just one instance in a long string of Fazbear Entertainment products that seemed specifically geared towards sadism, no matter how they were used. Fazgoo, Lonely Freddy's. I could go on. Revolutionary technology, appropriated for children's entertainment, with consequences so evil, it defies explanation. Or does it? Miss Dumplings, who is the current CEO of Fazbear Entertainment?
John Fazbear.
Are you prepared to admit that as a sworn statement?
No one knows who the CEO is. Were you unable to identify them?
We were not.
So what's your point?
My point, if the theory stands, is that these inventions caused suffering for a reason, to harvest remnant, liquid soul from the agonizing death of children. And for what? Assuming the CEO is who we think it is, one Mrs. Clara Afton, to resurrect a twisted facsimile of her own family. Is that not how the theory goes?
It is.
I guess the mass murder of children is the price we pay for bringing back a mass murderer of children. Seems like a good trade-off to me.
Time's up, Mr. Press.
So don't tell me William Afton is no longer the face of Fazbear Entertainment.
I said time is up! Thank you for the dignified and legally legitimate arguments. I will now hear closing statements, Mr. Sandwichley.
Of course. Ladies and gentlemen, if you take away one thing from this trial, it's that Murkoff ultimately looks after themselves. Murkoff thinks they're so important, better than everyone else. So much so that everyone else is either an asset or an obstacle. But these things, according to Murkoff, are interchangeable. Innocent, guilty, good, bad, it matters not what they do or whom they make business with, as long as they benefit. Which is how Murkoff has gotten away with such deplorable crimes against humanity. The most innocent and helpless and hungry of us, teased with promises of better lives, of scientific advancement, only to be treated like disposable slabs of meat. Conspiring with a rogues gallery of bad actors from recent history, all to create more weapons to spark more murder. All Murkoff is darkness, depravity, a microcosm for mankind's worst instincts. And at the top of the pyramid, the worst sin of all, pride. Ladies and gentlemen, if Murkoff gets away with this, they will walk away knowing their pride saved them. Do not give them that satisfaction. Thank you.
Mr. Press?
Ladies and gentlemen, the goal of Fazbear Entertainment was to be a fun, wholesome place for families. Yet over the decades, it's proven to be the exact opposite. Almost aggressively so. The callous indifference to human life and common sense. The machinations and products designed to kidnap and dispatch children. The bastardization of the sanctity of life and death. And, if the rumors are true, the insidious plan to resurrect the legacy of a well-known child killer at the expense of more children. Make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, this is a company that wants you and your children dead. The only thing it values more than your money is your unrefined agony and suffering. And for what? Progress? Science? The greater good? Not even that. They connive, they innovate, they kill. All in the name of William Afton. So, I hope you understand that I speak with utmost seriousness when I say that Fazbear Entertainment is a servant of the devil. And no matter what background you come from, I hope we can all agree the devil cannot win. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you to the witnesses who came up to the stand. And now, the jury will deliberate. Who is the jury in this case? Why, that's you, the viewer. Let us know who you think is more evil, Murkoff or Fazbear Entertainment, in the comments below. And don't forget to leave a like and hit that subscribe button to see more content like this. Court is adjourned.